Okay, we're live.
Okay, Tony.
Hello. Hey, folks. This is Tony. I've turned my camera off to preserve my signal. I'm in kind of a weak signal area, and I'm out with family, so I can't stay for the whole meeting. But I really wanted to be here to welcome everybody to this meeting as we are in the red zone and getting close to the goal line here. I want to, as always, thank everybody for their perseverance, for their continued engagement with this process. And I'm so proud of this process. I know I left the Planning Commission as chair 5 years ago. And I think we had been started around that time or before, and had been talking about it a long time before that. So it's been a haul, but I'm really proud of this process. And I think that the engagement and the ongoing engagement by this committee has just been amazing. And, when this UDO is enacted by the council, we will be able to, the whole world's going to know that this is a brilliant example of how to do it from a process standpoint the right way. So I just want to thank the staff and commend everybody on this committee for sticking with it. And I think this UDO is going to be an example for the whole country. So thank everybody for that. And, we're heading into our public hearing on Monday, and we'll move through that. And I know there's been a lot of conversation back and forth about the drafts and different provisions, and which is in keeping with our ongoing level of engagement. And then I think the plan is to then move on to the council in August for this to be enacted. So I just, again, want to thank everybody and appreciate everybody, and turn it over to Allison now. Thanks, Allison. And I'm going to have to sign off.
Thanks, Tony. I appreciate it. So just wanted to follow up a little bit from Tony's remarks and just say thank you to all of you for all of your work and time and effort in helping us get to this point. I went back and looked, and I think we've had 57 meetings, which is a lot of meetings, but this is a complex document, a complex process. So I really appreciate everyone's time and effort. So as Tony mentioned, the public hearing is Monday night, and the requested adoption and vote will be on August the 22nd. And I just wanted to talk about next steps a little bit too, that hopefully we get yes votes on the 22nd. And assuming that's the case, I think we're really going to be in a place where we need to just embrace a series of text amendments probably over the next couple of years as we work through tweaks and technicalities. Laura and Shane Fry and I have been talking a great deal about, what happens next, and what does that world look like? And so I just wanted to share with the group that I'm seeing probably two paths, that there may be, like, as you go through projects, there may be technical challenges that the ordinance is creating some problems from moving a project forward. And we're working through a process where you can come in and meet with planning staff and meet with really all the different permitting staff and presented this is the challenge I'm encountering, and then be able to come before that same body 2 days later and get an answer as to whether or not this is an interpretation, whether or not this is a text amendment, and being able to quickly address technical things that need to be changed in the ordinance to keep things moving forward. I think we'll also encounter some policy questions, and so that could come through projects, or it could come through just things that arise. It could come from even some of the different commissions and committees that the city has in place. And I really think that those types of conversations need to be more community-wide. And I'd like to be able to use the Ordinance Advisory Committee going forward to help with some of those conversations. And so would like to continue this body, this group. I think that y'all have been really helpful in shaping where the ordinance is today, and really would like to ask that you continue to be involved. And you can certainly talk through whether or not, attendance needs to change, or if you might need to turn it over to another person. But I just want to reiterate the value and importance that you all have brought to this process, and the value and importance that I think that you have really continuing this body of work forward. So I just wanted to say thank you. And so today we're going to talk about some of the changes that we're proposing for the adoption draft. And so I will turn it over to Laura to talk through those. So thanks.
Thanks, Allison. So as you guys know, we have a second draft that is the draft that goes to hearing on Monday. And we have not made changes to that draft at this point because of the way the ordinance is written. We have a time period when we can't make changes to drafts, that 4 weeks ahead of a hearing. So if we go to the next slide. We want to talk to you all about changes that we are proposing to make to the second draft of the UDO. And then, of course, Allison just talked about how the OAC would be used going forward. So just a reminder, on Monday, the 11th, we obviously have the public hearing on the UDO as well as the ordinance to adopt the UDO. So there are a few things in there as well, and that's on our website. The changes to the tree ordinance, and there will also be public comments on CDOT Charlotte Streets Manual in case you have interest in that as well. And on the 19th, we will be at Planning Committee requesting a recommendation from that committee, the Planning Committee of the Planning Commission. And on the 15th of August, or possibly even before, we will have a draft for the UDO that we'll be requesting council to adopt on the 22nd of August. So those are some big dates in the next month and a half or so. Next slide. A little bit about how we've gotten to where we are today. We had the public comment portal, as you all probably know, that opened on Friday, June the 3rd, when we released the second draft, and many public engagement opportunities between the 3rd and the 30th. We closed the public comment portal on the 30th, and since then have responded to each comment. I think we got just north of 280 comments on this go round, and responded to each comment that came in and have posted those responses on the UDO website in case you are interested in looking at how we responded. And with that information and some continued discussion, we have identified some substantive changes that we thought were important enough to bring to you guys today to make you all aware of them. These are changes that we think we should be making as we go to Planning Committee and asking them to consider the UDO with these changes, as well as a few others that we'll be preparing and putting in front of Planning Committee. So not a lot of information today, a little bit on the technical side. We'll apologize for that, but just want to walk through some of the major changes that we will be proposing. And the first one is to, in the introductory section, to say that conditional plans that are submitted under the current zoning ordinance will use the development ordinances in place prior to the UDO. So if you have a conditional plan that, or someone has a conditional plan that is approved this month, that they will, as long as that conditional plan is in place through their vesting period, they would continue to use all of the standards, not just the zoning standards, but also subdivision, streets, all the stormwater and tree standards currently in place until that zoning is changed. And at that point in time, obviously they would be using all the UDO regulations. There are a number of reasons we're doing that. We thought it was clearest that way. We do plan on going in and assessing and aligning the zoning for many sites. So we see that a lot of CD plans will eventually probably be rezoned. We're going to have to look at each one on a case-by-case basis. But in the meantime, because people have designed under all of the current regulations, we are proposing that they be able to continue to use those regulations. Number of things that we will be proposing in zoning, and some are for clarification. And this is a pretty good subset of the major ones. So I'll just walk through these quickly. We did add, I don't know if folks noticed in the second draft, a series of uptown streets, including Uptown Signature and Linear Park. And we said that they would be considered a main street across the board. And we need to clarify that they'd be considered a main street for zoning and development standards, but not standards for subdivision streets and infrastructure and streetscape standards. So just a clarification there. We, for neighborhood 1 lot size, for the neighborhood 1D, we heard a lot of feedback some intense feedback on the R8 zoning district translating to neighborhood 1D, and some concerns about nonconformity. So we've tried to address that to the extent we felt comfortable doing that by reducing the lot size for neighborhood 1D from 4,000 square feet to 3,500 square feet. Not a big change, but we think that will help some situations where we might have some nonconformities, and adjusting the rear setback minimum from 30 to 25 feet to have a better transition from that R8 district to the N1D district. We also, for the conservation residential option, had a couple of changes we're proposing. One is that we have no maximum building coverage if a lot is less than 5,000 square feet, so that we're really looking at relatively small lots for our community, for particularly a single family duplex or triplex, and that we would allow folks, because they will be reserving a lot of the site for trees and green space, to have a maximum building coverage, unlimited maximum building coverage to best use the lots that they have. And they would be conserving, I believe we're at 50% of the site for green space. We also had talked a while back about allowing a conservation residential development to also use the voluntary mixed income residential development standards. We needed to delete a statement that said that you couldn't do that in there, and so that we would fully allow those to be used on the same property. Next slide. More zoning. We did make a number of changes, not huge changes, but changes on zoning setbacks, and quickly go through them. Again, I know this is pretty far in the weeds. For the neighborhood 2 setbacks, the building siting standards table changes the setback for 4 to 5 lane Avenue Boulevard from 24 to 20 feet. And I think, Alan, was this just for, I think it's just for the neighborhood 2C. I think we'll need to confirm that. We also, in the building siting standards table for neighborhood 2 for other primary and secondary, for all of those, change the setback from 24 to 20 for the neighborhood 1A. So we're trying to maximize the use of land, make our community as pedestrian friendly as possible by bringing buildings closer to the street, and thinking that as we've reassessed setbacks, we saw some opportunities to do that. We also saw an opportunity with the Institutional Campus 1 and the Office Flex Campus, which are the more, frankly, suburban in nature campuses, to allow the setbacks to be reduced for a building if there's no parking or maneuvering between that building and the frontage, that you would be able to move that building closer to the street, consistent with the setback standards for the Community Activity Center 1 district. Again, allowing better use of land, better pedestrian environment, and encouraging the designers not to put parking and maneuvering between the building and the street. Next slide.
Laura, if I could jump in before we move to the next slide, I believe we also made this change in our commercial districts as well. And
yes,
that didn't make it into the slide.
Yes, we had the standard saying if you had no parking located between the building and the street, and we added or maneuvering, just to clarify that we were saying no parking or driveway between the building and the frontage. Some changes in uses. In the office campus, we're not allowing medical and dental offices previously. And so we thought we need a little bit more breadth in the office uses allowed in that district, and also allowing a healthcare institution of up to 2,500 or 25,000 square feet with overnight stay. So that may be where you have a sleep study or some reason, a minor surgery center, not a full-blown hospital in these, because we think that there are probably better places than the office campus use. We have the medical campus use where we think a major hospital should be located. We've also made some changes to standards for outdoor storage to eliminate the separation requirement when in a manufacturing and logistics district abutting another manufacturing and logistics district. So what that really says is if you're in that environment, that you can be closer to the property line and get additional use of your property. So, and we thought that could be done without having a negative impact on other types of uses that may be more sensitive to that. Also with quarries, we had hours of operation for quarries and heard back that, really the issue is the blasting at a quarry, and inserted a prohibition on blasting on Sundays and between 7 p.m. and 7 a.m. Otherwise, the way that this was written is that the way it was previously written is if you had some kind of other operation you were doing out there that wasn't making noise, that could go ahead and occur just like any other use. A bit more in zoning, and frankly, most of the significant changes are in zoning. I noticed Kiba has a hand raised. You want to unmute?
Yes, thank you, Laura. I'm sorry, I'm just tuning in and I just heard the note on quarries. Can you go back just one slide? Did I hear you say that the prohibition on blasting on Sundays and in that particular hour time frame has been eliminated? Restrictions on operations inserted a prohibition on blasting on Sunday. Okay, got it.
Yeah, no, we've inserted it.
What we heard, if I could elaborate a little
yeah,
bit.
please.
What we heard is that previously we restricted any operations in a quarry from, I believe it was 7 p.m. to 6 a.m. And it was pointed out to us that the quarries that we have in Charlotte are typically crushed rock types of quarries that provide materials for road construction. And quite often, either NCDOT or CDOT or maybe even private contractors are doing road work at night and on weekends, and they need materials from these quarries at all times of day and night. And so it really was hampering their operation to not be able to, load, crushed stone and deliver to a road construction site in Charlotte. So we did eliminate the restriction on the hours of operation, but we added a prohibition on blasting during the evening, night hours, early morning hours, and as well as on Sunday.
Thank you, Alan. Clear.
Alan, can you answer Douglas's question while we're here? It's in chat.
Oh, sorry. Why is blasting prohibited on Sundays? That was a carryover from our previous hours and prohibitions. So rather than question it, I think we just carried it forward. There isn't anything particularly special about Sunday other than it being the traditional day when some things are closed. I know that's kind of maybe not our current thinking, but
To that, Alan, for Commissioner Welton, the quarry, the only quarry, actually one of the only quarries that I'm aware of is in the Batesville corridor, which has tons of churches aligned. Not sure if that was their original intent of the Sunday ban, but that could have contributed.
And this is Kevin, and I'll just piggyback one step further and say that with the considerations that we were talking about with road construction, sometimes often those contractors, whether they be, state or private, oftentimes that work will maybe not take place on Sunday as well. So really there's not the need for really the quarry to even be operating.
This Commissioner Welton, that just kind of struck me as odd, saying Sunday was a day, and I hear some justifications for hanging on to where we are, but I don't necessarily agree with them, but this is what you guys have written. So thank you.
And I think it is, and Alan and Kevin, correct me if I'm wrong, I think it's less restrictive than maybe what was in the previous draft or is in the current second draft.
Yeah, let me go back.
As Alan is looking that up, I will say that the current regulatory framework and the conditions that exist in the current zoning ordinance are leading quarries currently to operate in violation of our standards. So this is actually mitigating that scenario.
Yeah, and the hours of our current prohibition or our proposed prohibition on blasting Sundays and then between 7 and 7. The former restriction on hours of operation was on Sundays and from the hours of 7 p.m. to 6 a.m. So we actually are giving nearby residents an extra hour of sleep in the morning by restricting that kind of noise-making activity from 6 a.m. to 7 a.m. But other than that, these are consistent with what the previous hours of operation were, which we didn't allow any type of operation in a quarry. We do have 3 quarries in Charlotte, and they're fairly spread out. There's one in the south part of the city, not too far from the I-485 South Boulevard area.
Sterling.
There's one in the far east of the city over near the Matthews Mid-Hill line. And there's one, as Kiva mentioned, in the north near the Beatties Ford Road.
I hear you. I guess I'm just looking at this from a productivity point of view. Quarries are losing about 14% of their ability to produce a week if they can't work on Sundays. So, I have no issue with the hours. As somebody who is near a wastewater project right now that is blasting daily, I understand the prohibition on hours. Again, I'm just looking at this from a productivity point of view and an economic viability point of view. And if you tell me I have 14% less of my business that I can operate every week, that's interesting.
Well, I think Alan, and please correct me if I'm wrong. I don't think we're completely saying all operations are prohibited on Sunday. It's just blasting is prohibited on Sunday.
Okay. I hear that. And if blasting is special amongst the operations, then there's justification for this. The blasting on Saturday, I'm sure, is just as not special as the blasting on Sunday is special. So that's where I'm going with it. I'll let it be. You guys have written this as it is. It just seemed odd to me, and I just wanted to say that.
Commissioner Walton, if you're interested, I live within a mile of a quarry, and I'd love to have offline a conversation about that experience.
Yeah, and I'm not that far from the quarry that's off of Nations Ford down south as well. And noise is noise, and that sort of thing. Again, my main issue was Sunday special, and if Sunday is special because it was the way it always used to be, then there's a place for that. And obviously it's carried forward in this particular thing. If Sunday's not special, then I wonder why we would restrict the operations on Sunday. But again, I don't mean to make a federal case out of this. I just was curious as if Sunday was special. And so I'll let that go and we can go forward with the presentation.
Thank you. I think this is where we stopped, right, Alan? Actually, were there setbacks before this? We went through setbacks.
We did. So
Thank
we're
you.
moving
Yes.
beyond. And Laura, we may have missed one as we were putting these in. So maybe we didn't miss it, but we did modify the parkways setback from 40 feet to 20 feet. I think we just missed that one.
Yes, we did. So for folks to know that, measured from the right-of-way line, we went from 40 to 20 feet. So a little bit more on zoning. We, for design of open space, we originally had a requirement that in any direction, any dimension had to be a minimum of 25 feet. We heard that was probably excessive. And we deleted that in the last draft, meant to go back in and actually change that to 10 feet for public and common open space, and different standard for private open space. But we really think for public and common open space that to be usable, which is the intent of the open space in the zoning, that you would need a dimension of 10 feet. So we think that provides more flexibility, but still meets the intent of that open space. We've also added, and we'll need to go to this slide, in the second draft, we had affordable housing development allowances. And we kind of had the affordability targets as TBD. And if we can go to that slide, just a reminder, we have a number of incentives that people can use for affordable housing. And the question is, so what do you have to do to get these? And so from an affordable housing perspective, you have to commit to a period of 30-year affordability. So you're at a 30-year period and you have choices as to what you do. You can do 15% of your project at 60% area median income or less, 30% of your project at 80% area median income or less, or 20% at 80% area median income in areas of high cost housing per the Affordable Housing Administration Manual. And this is still a little bit of a TBD. We'll be working on this, hopefully have this all straightened out before actual adoption. And you have to have at least 5 affordable units, depending on which you're selecting. And that is for everything except the reimbursement cost of constructing sidewalks. And in that case, and this is set by state law when we're reimbursing for affordability, you have to have 20% of the units at 60% or below area median income for 15 years. So those are the affordability targets that go with the new section on the affordable housing incentives. Down to vehicle parking, some adjustments for that. Going back to the standards from the first draft, which for the tier 1 minimums, which were typically lower than what we had in the second draft in just a couple of cases. So not major changes, but one example, and probably the prime example, is reducing the parking for a duplex from 2 per unit to 1.5 per unit. So required one less parking space and easier probably to work with sites to build a duplex. Some changes, a change in the sign section for the regional commercial zoning district. We have changed the maximum sign area from 42 square feet to 84 square feet, and the height from 7 feet to 30 feet. And just a reminder, the regional commercial is really our large scale, and I like to say, think IKEA, our large scale, more auto oriented commercial district. Here's some more on setbacks. In multiple districts, we changed the setback for 6-lane or more Avenue Boulevard for districts, and you can see the districts listed from 30 to 24 feet, again with the same intent. Let's maximize the use of our land. We know that we're having affordability issues. How much can we maximize that and still provide the quality development we're all looking for? And then Alan mentioned the parkway change a minute ago. And then we've also added back a standard that was deleted before, but we've adjusted a little bit. And that is on the base of building standard. And I think we have that on the next slide. So we're looking at buildings in 90 feet in height or greater, or actually over 90 feet. So the base of the building differentiated from the remainder of the building, with an emphasis on providing design elements to support the pedestrian environment. And if you look at buildings of this height, they typically do have this, but not all of them do. We think it's important that we have this standard, and something we typically ask for in rezonings. We've given a range of where the differentiation can occur, no higher than 50 feet above grade and within the bottom third of the building, and a number of ways that this can be accomplished. I won't read all of them, but you can see changes in material, ornamentation, and so forth. And just to clarify, this wouldn't apply on a limited access frontage, because we really think that it's probably less important there. You don't have the pedestrian environment. I think we're 2 slides up. Few more things in zoning. We have added a restriction on townhouse and multifamily development. We had a 400-foot length, maximum length for those, but we're saying if you're above 150 feet for those, that parking should be to the side or the rear. If you stay below that, you can have parking in the front, but really thinking for very, very long runs of these buildings, that it's important to have that parking to the side or the rear. Added in a minor restriction on EFS, saying that it can be used anywhere except the ground floor of multifamily buildings. And we felt strongly about it, so we added that twice onto the slide. Sorry, I think we're done. And Ordinance Administration, I think this may be our last slide. We say this in multiple articles, that appeals from the Historic District Commission would go to Superior Court instead of the UDO Board of Adjustment. Appeals for everything else after they have been appealed goes to Superior Court, and for consistency, we have added that here. And that is, I think we can move to any additional chat we have at this point.
Thank you, Laura. And I will start by saying Eric just put a question in the chat. And since we're at a good stopping point, Eric, if you want to come off mute and we can discuss the question that you just input.
Thanks, Kevin. Yeah, my question dealt with in the spirit of what you were doing with the setbacks to try to maximize the amount of land that we do have. And I was just wondering if there could be maybe additional land given in the setbacks being reduced if affordable housing, including that when, with affordable housing in those projects to kind of maximize the space, as long as it didn't impact the urban fabric, walkability, et cetera.
And I think that we've tried to do that across the board instead of limiting it only to affordable housing. We've looked for every place where we thought that could be done. So I think otherwise you would have affordable housing projects closer to the street, and you kind of have this, I think we're looking for that consistent building wall, but have tried to find any place where we thought, how can we give back some land for development? And while, as you said, respecting that urban fabric. Now, this has been a lot of technical details. Any more questions, thoughts?
Hey, Laura, this is John Morris. Can you guys hear me?
We can.
Yes.
I just want to thank you guys for considering the manufacturing logistics that abuts each other, eliminating and I can't remember the word you used. To me, it's setbacks.
Yeah.
But allowing us to uses that abut, and we've got a lot in the Tando Business Park where nobody can see it but the manufacturing and logistics neighbor, but allowing us to use more land there, I really appreciate. That's something we talked about in that little breakout committee in the economic analysis, and I appreciate you listening to us on that and incorporating it into the ordinance.
Well, thank you. I think we've learned so much from the feedback that we've gotten, and we really appreciate all that you guys have done. I know that, sometimes it may seem like, it's taken a while to get our attention, but we're really trying to find opportunities where people have identified them. So thanks for the feedback that we've gotten from you guys as well. Anyone else? And if not, Allison, do you want to wrap us up?
Sure, thank you. I guess we'll give you back some of your time in your day. But again, just want to say thank you very much. And, just please let us know if you have any questions as we kind of move through the next steps. So it's go to Planning Committee on July the 19th, right, Laura? To provide sort of the summary of recommended changes that we're proposing. And then, of course, the public hearing on Monday, and then request for adoption on the 22nd. And so thank you again for your time and your contributions to this very important body of work. We really couldn't have done it without you, and look forward to working with you all. Hopefully as we get this thing adopted and start looking at what tweaks we might need to make down the road. So thank you to each and every one of you for your dedication to this work. We all really greatly appreciate it. Oh, so Eric is asking, any idea when we'll get a final draft? So I believe, Laura, the summary of recommended changes that will go to Planning Committee will be available. I think we're aiming to have that done by July 14th, right? So that we
yes, that's a week from today. Yes.
Monday too.
I'm sorry, did you call on me, Allison?
Yeah, I just said you had your hand up. I didn't know if that was for now or if that was from past.
It's for now. I just want to thank this body. The OAC has been in existence for quite some time. I'm not sure exactly the shape or form this body may take post-adoption of the UDO. I do know that planning staff, you guys are exploring how and if to continue use of this committee. But I wanted to just implore and urge everyone to appear, if you so choose, at the public hearing in support of the UDO. What I hear in the comments and the messages that I've received from some of you is very supportive, and we'd love to be able to show council that on Monday at the public hearing. I would love also for OAC members to hear any public feedback that's given in person. I know we're all very busy, and I know the amount of time that we spend on this body, but it just would mean a lot to me, chair of the planning commission, chair of the planning committee, to have the support in person. So I just wanted to make that plea publicly. Thank you.
Thank you, Kiba. I appreciate it. If right now, I think we are first on the business meeting. So after the public forum, which starts at 6:30 on Monday. Any other questions? Thank you all. I really appreciate it. And maybe we'll see you on Monday. If not, when we reconvene at a later date, we'll look forward to seeing you then.
Hey, Allison, real quick, following on that comment, could you guys send out a link or a way for the OAC to make comments, like to sign up for comments? Is that possible, just to make it a little bit easier for us on that front? Because I agree, the folks who have participated, whatever their opinion is, should voice it. And I agree. It seems like most folks support what you and your staff have done. That's certainly my opinion, but sending a link or showing us how to do that, I know would be helpful for me.
Yeah, I can put it in the chat right now.
Awesome.
We could also send that in an email to the committee members.
That sounds good. We can do that too.
Thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you for asking. I appreciate that. All right. Well, have a great rest of your day.